Hello, I'm Rebecca McLaughlin, and I just got the edit letter for the first draft of my second book. So let's talk about edit letters. An edit letter is something that you get from your editor right after they finish reading your book for the first time. Typically, when you're working with an editor getting traditionally published, there's three major stages of edits: developmental edits, line edits, and copy edits, in that order. Developmental edits are the big edits, then line edits are line by line, copy edits are like proofing essentially. Developmental edits are typically kicked off the very first step with an edit letter. So your editor reads your manuscript, however long it takes them, and they pull together a literal letter to send you. And that letter breaks down the high-level areas of your book that they'd like you to pay attention to. Now, an edit letter is typically in like a Word document or maybe right in the email. It's just giant paragraphs of text a lot of times where they talk through the things that they'd like you to revise, to reimagine, or potentially to even rewrite. Edit letters can be anywhere between 5 and 25 pages long, single-spaced often. The one I just got is from a freelance editor that I'm working with, and it's a solid 20 pages long, and I read the entire thing the night it came in, and now I'm a day and a half later, I'm still just processing because there's so much, and it's very easy to read through an edit letter and then feel like your book is hopeless because there's so many things they've commented on, so many areas of struggle that they want you to work through and revise, that sometimes it's just really difficult to see through to the end of the developmental edits to really believe that the book will be better and that it isn't trash right now. But don't worry, your book is not trash. It just needs a little bit of elbow grease to shine it up. So an edit letter will break down all the areas that need work to varying levels of specificity. And what I mean by that is that there may be 2, 5, 10 different subjects or areas of your book that they'd like you to look at, and there may be anything from a couple sentences to some bullets to paragraphs or pages of description or explanation. And sometimes these come with suggestions or ideas for you to make it better. Most times when you get an edit letter, and here's how I've done them before, is that you read it, you take a couple days to just process it, and then I read it again, and I go through kind of with a highlighter or comments on a Word document to basically outline the areas for myself that I feel I have a good answer to, areas that I'm not sure what I want to do, or areas that I want clarity on, or suggestions on. Now, the main areas that an edit letter will cover are as follows. I wrote them down: plot, pacing, characterization, world building, relationships, thematic arcs. There's a huge list here. Really, they're the big foundational building blocks of your story. This is a little bit of new territory for me with this book because this is the first time I'm letting someone, like an editor, read my very first draft. Like my very first draft. Like I was sending her chapters as I was completing them so that she could get a feel and sense of it all the way through the process and kind of, raise a red flag if I was doing something super wrong or weird. But it's really scary because I know, and everyone knows, I feel, that your first draft is very bad. Remember how earlier I said that your book is not trash? Your first draft kind of maybe is trash, but not in like an unsalvageable way. The only thing I'm trying to say is that first drafts are levels of bad. They just are. There are going to be things that, you focused a lot on characterization and maybe the plot fell, or you're focusing so much on plot that you forgot world building. So the thing is about first drafts is that you can't pay attention to everything at once. And a lot of times once you finish writing it, that's when you realize you have to go back in and fix things up. So it was scary for me to share not only a first draft, but also to expect an edit letter back, which essentially outlines all of its flaws and areas for development and growth. But kudos to my freelance editor. Everything she said was framed in terms of, let's make this better, let's make it stronger, let's dig deeper, as opposed to, this is flimsy, that doesn't work, no bueno. And that's something you want to keep in mind if you get an edit letter. Yes, it's designed to poke holes in your story because it's helping you fill those holes and build it stronger. And that's kind of what developmental edits are like overall. That's the purpose of them. They're to develop your story, make it better. I talked a bit about my personal reaction to an edit letter, and I do think that that's true in terms of general advice. So if you get an edit letter, it is often a good idea to read through the whole thing once If anything jumps out at you as problematic or particularly concerning, go ahead and mark it, but then just absorb the information for a little while, then revisit it. And part of that is because, and I know this isn't the intent of anyone who writes an edit letter, but part of a reaction of someone who cares about their work and wants to do a good job is that when you get an edit letter or any critique, you have this sort of, or at least I do, this sort of reaction of, oh no, it's terrible! Oh, this is overwhelming! And it's both overwhelming from the perspective of it's a lot of critique and feedback and problems that are being identified, but also just because with an edit letter, especially like mine when it's 20 plus pages, it's just so much to take in at once. So by the time you get to the end, you might have forgotten what was at the beginning. And all you're left with is this overarching sensation that there's a lot of things wrong with your story. And sure, maybe that's true, but that just means you get to spend a lot of time fixing it, and you have this wonderful edit letter that's gonna help you do that. The next thing about an edit letter that you should know as it pertains to the traditional publishing process is that it's not like they give you the edit letter and walk away. For the most part, people who write an edit letter for you are willing to discuss it with you. So if you have questions, you want to talk things through, or even if they just want to explain further part of the feedback that they've given you, there's almost always going to be a conversation. They don't just dump the edit letter in your lap and leave. The whole point is that they're working with you to fix these issues. After you've had a bit of time to digest and reflect, you might hop on the phone or exchange more emails. And this is where your review of the edit letter comes in handy, because you want to review it and say, here are the things I know how to fix and how I want to fix them. Here are the things that I'm not sure on how to fix and I'd like some input or clarification, or I'm going to throw some ideas at you and see what you think. And then there's maybe areas where you just don't know what to do and maybe you need clarity, explanation, because you're not sure what to do with the feedback they've given you. The big thing about edit letters is that they're not asking you to be perfect the first go round. They're just saying, hey, now that you've done this amazing feat, written a book, let's make it even better. Let's improve upon it. All right, so with that said, I obviously have an edit letter to get to. So if you have any questions or suggestions about how to deal with edit letters or what they are or how they're used, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know. Subscribe if you want to learn more. I put up videos about every Saturday talking about the writing process, my own writing journey. I have a book coming out in January 2020. It is available for pre-order now, link in the description below. And mainly, I just want to catalog and experience and share all of the wild things that happen on this publishing journey. Here is my most recent video, and here is a video that YouTube thinks you will like. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. See you next time. Bye!